Howdy folks, this is Bryce with Recreation and Parks, and I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of Quarantined with a Curator. Quarantined with a Curator, talking about old stuff. Being a curator, I'm usually what we in the business refer to as a behind-the-scenes kind of guy. So my producer suggested that if I was going to present myself to you, the public, that I should wear my appropriate country attire. So for today's ensemble, I've chosen this circa 1970 Sears Western wear top, complete with faux mother-of-pearl snaps, this handsome embroidery work, and this oh-so-appropriately lengthed collar. Boy, talk about a miscommunication. Apparently I went back and reread my email. It did not say wear your appropriate country attire. It did say, in fact, to wear your proper county attire. So, yeah. Here it is. Proper county attire, Henrico Recreation and Parks. So, now that we got all that out of the way, let's get on to business. Well, I know the first question you're going to ask is, what exactly does a curator do? Part of my job includes the inventory and cataloging and just the general maintenance of all the pieces that are currently in our collection that are on display at our historic sites and museums, as well as the maintenance of all the pieces that are currently not on display that we have in our storage unit. In addition to the general maintenance of the collection, we also do a lot of research. We take each piece in the collection and try to figure out where it was made, who made it, and who may have used it. By doing this, it gives us a better ability to interpret these pieces inside of our historic sites and museums. So today, what I'd like to do for you, since we're all working from home and I currently don't have access to our collection to be able to show you some of the amazing things in our collection, I'm going to take a look around my house to see if I can dig up something special to show to you, just to demonstrate a little bit of the research techniques and the interpretation of just everyday common items. Might be something amazing. It's something amazing to me. I don't know. You'll have to wait and see. I'll be right back, and hold tight just a sec. Hey everybody, I am back with you here, and I did manage to find something really cool that I'd like to share with you. Are you ready for the big reveal? I know you are. Why, Bryce, that's just a frying pan, you say. I say to you, dear viewers, no, it is more than just a frying pan. This is a Griswold Iron Mountain No. 8 cast iron skillet made in Erie, Pennsylvania by the Griswold Company in the 1930s and 1940s. The Griswold Company was in operation in Erie, Pennsylvania from 1887 to about 1957 or so. How do I know all of this about this particular frying pan? Well, I'm going to teach you all about it. It's called research. The first thing you want to do to start your investigation is to closely examine the object. You want to see how it's made, what it's made out of, and compare it to a similar item. For instance, with our cast iron here, we notice that it is rather heavy. There are no bolts or fasteners or anything holding it together. It's one solid piece of cast iron. And then compare it to another skillet. This is a modern skillet, and you'll notice that there are fasteners. It's two separate pieces of metal that connect it, and it's not made of iron, it's made of cast aluminum, and it's actually significantly lighter than your cast iron would be. Another little trick you can use to determine what kind of metal you're dealing with is what I like to call the magnet test. With the old skillet in question here, take a magnet, it sticks, therefore it is iron. Modern skillet, magnet, does not stick, not iron. Now that we've established that we are in fact dealing with cast iron, the next step is to try and figure out when it was made. We do this by looking for additional clues. For instance, on this skillet, we have a heat ring. These were used so that the cookware did not directly touch the stovetop back when they used to use wood-fired grills. We also take a look for what are known as maker's marks. These can be words, numbers, or symbols that were used by specific manufacturers at specific times. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can even find a date. A lot of times these marks will be hidden, so you have to look closely so you don't miss anything. For instance, on skillets, A lot of times they'll be hidden either on the top of the handle or on the back of the handle in very small lettering, or oftentimes on the bottom. For instance, on this skillet here, we have the number 8 and we have the cast number down here at the bottom, which is 1033A. Now that we've gained all the information we can from looking at the object, the next step is to consult people that are much smarter than us. So there are a couple of ways you can go about doing this. There's the old-fashioned way. Why, books, of course. Every chap looks smart sitting in his study. There are actually books, journals, magazines written about almost any topic that you can imagine. But a lot of times we don't have the time, energy, resources, or even care to go out and buy all these books. So the other way that you can go about doing your research to try to figure out what you've got is to actually fire up the old Google machine. Simply open up your web browser and type in all the information that you know about the object. For instance, with the skillet, I typed in the number 8, the 1033A, cast iron skillet, vintage, antique, all that information. Just start searching away. You'll eventually come up with something, and it will more than likely point you in the right direction. You do want to make sure that you find multiple sources and you're able to corroborate your information with other folks. Don't trust everything that you see on the internet, just like with anything else. So do your due diligence and you will find yourself in a good place at the end of the day. My deepest apologies to everyone. I just realized after sitting here droning on for about 7 minutes that you've all been staring at a completely blank beige wall behind me. I brought in some reinforcements to try to spice up the set just a little bit. I've got my houseplant Lester over there. If you get tired of looking at my face, feel free to peruse the set, ease your mind just a little bit, and I promise I'll be done in just a few minutes. Now it's time to add the final piece to the puzzle. Who would have used this item? A lot of times this is something you're not going to be able to figure out, especially if you picked it up at an antique store or just a thrift store or something like that. But in this particular instance, I do know that this particular cast iron skillet came from my great-grandmother. My great-grandfather was from the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and during the Great Depression he traveled over the mountains into West Virginia to work at a CCC camp that was building the Lost River State Park. Him and my great-grandmother lived in nearby Lost City, West Virginia, which is still a city today. It's about 5 houses on the side of a mountain, but if you Google it, there is a place called Lost City, West Virginia. So, if you recall, I told you that this particular skillet was manufactured in the 1930s and 1940s, which means that my great-grandparents would have been using this during the Great Depression and afterwards. My great-grandmother would have used it to feed my grandfather and my great-uncle and great-aunt. So therefore, if I were going to use this piece to interpret in a museum, I might use it to interpret poor mountain life in the country during the Great Depression. I actually still use the skillet today. In fact, I cooked salmon in it last night. And now this entire room smells like salmon. Okay everybody, now that I'm done sharing with you, it's your turn. Using what you've learned today, I'd like to challenge you to go through your house and share something with us. Now kids, please ask your parents' help with this. I do not want to hear any stories of anybody climbing up into Grandma's cupboard trying to reach that Lady Di and Prince Charles commemorative plate and accidentally knocking over an entire set of those McDonald's collectible glasses. Everybody knows you're never going to find another Mayor McCheese. Post your story on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter with the hashtag Henrico Parks. We're really looking forward to see what you guys come up with, and we'll see you next time on Quarantine with the Curator.